The Steam Deck is a handheld gaming system that frankly has no competition. The Steam Deck, simply put, is light years ahead of any other handheld like the Switch or even any other PC gaming handheld like the Neos on the market, purely thanks to the magic behind SteamOS and the beauty of it. If you are looking for a console experience, I can, contrary to what many other people have said in their reviews, recommend the Steam Deck as a gateway into PC gaming, and you can absolutely use it with only a console experience in mind. However, that does not mean this is not the perfect portable gaming PC thanks to the desktop mode that we'll take a look at later. When it comes to the fundamental UI, it's fantastic overall, especially when compared to what I've heard from early reviewers, and especially compared to the Neo's alternative. In terms of the GUI taking forever to load, specifically in the store, those issues have thankfully been fixed, and overall I have little to no complaints about the basic console-esque UI for the Steam Deck, outside of the quick menu on the right hand side not having a Bluetooth tab, which makes using Bluetooth devices ever so slightly more inconvenient. Although the basic SteamOS console style mode is damn near perfect, outside of a few nitpicks from me, the desktop mode is fucking godlike. I cannot stress how fucking awesome the desktop mode is. Our Lord and Savior Gabe Newell has not held back with this mode. It is a full Linux desktop without all of the insane amount of issues you can experience using things like Ubuntu and basically any other version of Linux. This is by far the best version in my eyes, purely due to how it manages to unify such a fragmented ecosystem. If you want to do something on your Steam Deck that Valve doesn't necessarily offer inside Steam itself, you can do it here. Whether it's setting up cloud gaming services to appear in the default UI, allowing the use of emulators, showing emulated video games directly in the UI of Steam, along with their respective emulators, and even Epic Game Store titles, Battle.net titles, GOG titles, and the list goes on. You can do whatever you want with your Steam Deck, and I have only found a single game that does not run on it at all: Halo Spartan Assault. It is unbelievably easy to get storefronts like GOG and the Epic Game Store to work on the deck as well. All you need to do is simply download the Heroic Launcher through the Discover store, then log in, and that is quite literally it. That is all you need to do. Despite the fact Epic Games have gone out of their way to make it incredibly difficult to get it to work on the deck because of their continuous anti-consumer practices in regards to the Epic Games Store overall. And it's why the deck is so insanely good for both casual users and the more knowledgeable users when it comes to PC gaming. You could easily use this device and never touch the desktop mode, but the option is there, and even your typical problems with using Linux have that the bare minimum been reduced to ash here. Valve has once again entered a dying market and given it life, just like they did with the Valve Index. I mean, if you think having a full Linux desktop in the palm of your hand was impressive as it is, then oh boy are you going to be ecstatic when you see how well games run on this little beast. As stated earlier, I have only had one game not run on the deck so far. Every single unsupported title I have played has been playable. I have yet to find a title this thing even runs poorly. It's gotten to the point where I fucking downloaded Marvel Avengers in a desperate attempt to get it to fail to run a game due to how unoptimized it is. This guy runs at above 30 FPS for 99% of the time at a mix of medium and high settings. That is flat out insane. More so in fact thanks to how it isn't even a native Linux game with poor optimization running well. This is a game built for Windows and one that runs terribly on any system, running better than the last gen consoles in the palm of my hand. And it's all thanks to a compatibility layer. Oh, and don't worry, the performance only gets more and more and more and more goddamn impressive. Godfall, another notoriously poorly optimized title, runs at an almost stable 60 FPS on the deck. I don't own Godfall on Steam. I'm running it through the Epic Game Store on my Steam Deck. It is a completely and utterly unsupported version of this already poorly optimized game, which somehow runs runs damn near perfectly. I wanna know what fucking magic Valve is using for this thing and what magic they also put into the speakers, because they are glorious. The same goes for the screen. Although it is a just slightly higher resolution than 720p, sitting at 1280 by 800 pixels, the screen and its size is brilliant to say the very least. It's sharp, its colors pop, and colors are as deep as I'd expect from some OLED screens at times. If you want a general statement surrounding how good the screen is, I'd say it's easily between the Switch and the Switch OLED, but it's damn near close being as good as the Switch OLED screen, despite its screen being an IPS rather than an OLED one. The fact it is an IPS screen definitely is a reason as to why the battery life for it is as good as it is. When emulating games like the original God of War, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Crash Bandicoot Nitro Fueled Racing, Super Smash Bros Ultimate, the Sly Cooper Collection, and even titles like Diablo 3, I can easily get around 4 hours of battery life out of this. When playing AAA titles like God of War, Dying Light 2, Halo Wars and The Witcher 3, all of which by the way you can easily get running at either medium or high settings at 60 FPS with around 2 hours of battery life. In an absolute worst case scenario, you're looking at 45 FPS to 30 FPS on low settings, which for a handheld is incredibly impressive when you're running titles like God of War 2018. Although some of the performance in my video may be hindered by the insanely high temperatures seen in the UK recently, which is why Valve themselves told you not to use your deck in this heat. Unfortunately for the testing of my Steam Deck, I had to do this since I'm going to be on holiday when I'm uploading this video. But what this means for you as a viewer is that this is essentially the performance in a worst case scenario you're seeing, which again just makes it even more impressive. That battery life may not sound impressive, but it is considering how the hardware inside the deck is essentially a portable PS4 Pro, if not ever so slightly better. All things considered, that is brilliant battery life. In comparison to my Switch, it's about double the battery life I get out of that. All things considered, the Steam Deck's battery life is fantastic. Weirdly enough, booting up as well as running AAA titles off of the microSD card has no noticeable difference from the internal 512 VMe drive, which I have to say is pure magic. Well, let's be honest here, it's not pure magic. SteamOS just doesn't have nearly as much bloat as Windows, although the undeletable Firefox browser being pre-installed and attached to the OS itself definitely pisses me off, mainly due to its ugly ass logo change.
Look how they massacred my boy.
Plus how they ask you if you want to install Chrome, despite having Firefox pre-installed in the desktop and installed in such a way where you literally cannot delete it. And as stated before, where the deck really shines is the fact it has the largest gaming catalog of any console thanks to emulation. With the lack of Nintendo's closed ecosystem and the beauty of Valve's open Linux-based OS, you too can groom all the kids you want to your heart's content when playing Super Smash Bros Ultimate on the Steam Deck. Just make sure to blur out your gameplay on YouTube to avoid Nintendo's religious copyright abuse. Fuck you, Nintendo. You can't take down this video if I use footage of me emulating non-Nintendo published games. Shove that one up your ass, you copyright abusing cunts. And don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, I'll have a Steam Deck emulation guide for the Nintendo Switch where I teach you how to legally emulate it. But remember guys, I cannot legally endorse piracy, so that tutorial in no way, shape or form can be used for anything else other than legal emulation. Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled is a perfect example of a game I can show you emulated on the deck without worry of Nintendo's religious copyright abuse. And Diablo 3, Eternal Unleashed. Now you'll notice in my gameplay of Crash Team Racing it is isn't 60 FPS. I know it's disgusting, but this is a game that doesn't run at 60 FPS on any system whatsoever. Although you can absolutely get it running at 60 FPS on the deck using FSR and a mod so long as your version is above 1.07, and unfortunately for me, my version is below that, and so for the time being I can't get it to run at 60 FPS. Diablo 3, well, it runs buttery smooth just like all of the other Switch games I have tested outside of Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which doesn't run on any emulator because Ubisoft cannot code for shit. Apart from that game specifically, I have yet to find, in typical fashion with this beautiful device, a single Switch game that doesn't run well on the deck. Although I will still recommend you emulate the Wii U version of Breath of the Wild since it's a more stable build, and the Wii U emulator, aka Cemu, will download a 60 FPS patch along with some graphical upgrades automatically for you. But don't remotely worry, it's not just the Wii U and Switch emulators that run flawlessly on the deck. RPCS3 used for PS3 emulation will run the vast majority of your PS3 titles so long as they are supported due to the nature of emulating a PS3. The same goes for pretty much any emulator on the market, and with the help of EmuDeck you can get them to appear in the Steam library for easy access. No matter what you throw at the Steam Deck, it can certainly handle it, and even in titles that require mouse and keyboard to play, all you need to do is either plug in a mouse and keyboard or use the touchpads along with key-binded buttons. The versatility offered here is undeniably unmatched by any other handheld system, and that's thanks to SteamOS using Linux rather than Windows, like the WinGDP does, as well as many of Valve's competitors, and it allows me to run essentially any title I could ever want to. I have around 60 or 70 games installed on my Steam Deck, most of which are emulated across the 512GB internal storage plus a 1TB microSD card, and most of which are not at all quote-unquote supported by Steam natively. When it comes to the issues I have with this system, there are not a significant amount, nor are they major complaints, but I personally had severe issues initially with the Steam Deck's desktop mode in regards to the trackpads not being recognized and the keyboard pop-up not working. However, it was strangely and bafflingly fixed by me booting up Halo Spartan Assault on the Steam Deck, as it's marked as playable, which caused a prompt telling me to use the shortcut for the keyboard pop-up. For some reason that fixed all my issues with the desktop mode, and I will forever be confused by this since Spartan Assault doesn't even run on the Steam Deck to begin with, it just opens to a blank screen. My other complaints are mainly ones in regards to the microSD slot specifically. There is no cover for it, so if you ever put your deck down and accidentally spill something on it and it gets near the microSD card, you're 100% fucked. There is no protection for it, which is absolutely ridiculous and a genuinely massive oversight on the part of Valve here. So is the fact that microSD card is situated in a spot where the deck in extreme temperatures, like the one seen recently in the UK, can get excruciatingly hot. This could potentially slow down load times and so on and so forth. The primary reason as to why I'm baffled by their decision here is because there's completely and utterly no reason to not have a little plastic cover for the microSD card slot to protect it from dust and any other harmful substance. However, I do have a theory as to why they've done this. In the temperature range of 35 degrees Celsius to 40 degrees Celsius, in regards to the surrounding temperature, the microSD slot and the machine as a whole can get very hot, and I think a reason as to why there's no cover is because Valve's trying to protect the microSD card as much as possible, since in comparison to the rest of the device, it doesn't seem to get cooled well at all. But I do have to say that's a shitty excuse to say the very least, and one I'm making purely out of theory, and the reason it's a shitty excuse is down to the simple fact that a little plastic cover for the microSD card slot would at most be a negligible effect on thermals. On the opposite side of the spectrum, the rest of the form factor for Steam Deck is fantastic in every way. The only thing you may need to get used to is the back button placement, but you will adjust within around 5 minutes, and my god is it significantly more comfortable to use in long periods than the Switch. The Steam Deck is not too big like many journalists have been suggesting. The Switch is just minuscule in all honesty, and it's why the Switch for me and many other people causes cramps. The idea a handheld shouldn't be as big as the Switch, let alone the Steam Deck, is one made up of pure idiocy, when they're meant to do what they're meant to be doing here. For what the Switch tries to achieve, it's comparatively far too small, and regardless, who needs a Switch when your Steam Deck can run the games better? Overall, if you want to play modern/retro titles from platforms you can easily emulate on the go, there is no better device. The same directly applies to taking your Epic Games Store, GOG, and Steam library on the go. Valve's Steam Deck is a damn near perfect device for all your on-the-go gaming desires. You still, like with the Switch, probably shouldn't bring it to parties though. Now I have nothing else to talk about when it comes to the Steam Deck, so with all that being said, we have finally come to the end of the video, which in typical fashion for YouTubers means I am now going to beg you to check out my Twitter, my Discord, as well as like, comment and subscribe, so that I will see you all in the next video.